All right, so Halima, just looking at what's going on in the pre-market right now, oil prices are jumping despite the thought that tariffs would actually dampen global demand for oil. I want to get your take on the tariffs on Mexican crude and also the fact that Canada got a 10% tariff on its energy. And then what does this all mean for OPEC and its production cuts?
I mean, Frank, as you mentioned, oil is up today. I mean, clearly, I think there is some concern about potential broader disruption coming from these economic measures. I would say it is very interesting that Canada only got a 10% tariff on energy and not the full 25% that other goods have received. I do think there was a pretty significant lobbying effort on the part of the Alberta Premier, on the part of Canadian energy corporates. They'd hoped to be exempted. They're not happy about 10%, but I think it could have been worse. But the question going forward is, as we think about tariffs, is will we be seeing further tariff action that could really impact demand? So hence, we watch very carefully the situation with China.
I want to go back to that OPEC question. OPEC planning to do production cuts. Does this change things meaningfully for OPEC? I mean, I'm seeing some reports out, Rystad, one of many, saying they believe that these tariffs are going to be short-lived. How does OPEC view this?
I mean, I think OPEC, as they think about how you manage production going forward, it just adds to uncertainty. We have sanctions that are being imposed on countries like Russia, potentially more sanctions on Iran, and now you have to factor in what is a tariff effect on demand on key producers. So if you were OPEC and you were seeing all this policy coming out of Washington, I think it reinforces their desire to watch and wait, to stick with the production plans outlined in December and not to make sudden moves in terms of increasing production. Because again, you don't know where this is going to land. There is so much policy uncertainty right now emanating from Washington.
All right, so speaking of we don't know where it's going to land, what happens to those Canadian and Mexican crude exports that are being tariffed here? Do they go to other parts of the world? Do they go to other parts maybe that are facing sanctions? I mean, how does that all work out?
I mean, Canada is in a really challenging position because they have one market for Canadian oil. And I think what is very interesting, if you listen to the Canadian conversation, is they're now starting to talk about, is our energy security now contingent on having other available export routes, other markets, not being solely dependent on the United States. Now, that will take years, but I think it is sparking a very important conversation in Canada about what is the best path for Canadian energy security and Canadian market access.